Hello, I'm PJ Bishop. Welcome to my channel in the ongoing series with the Oakland A's. In this video, we're going to go over our top prospects, but not just all of them. As you can see here, I've got 77. It's getting to the point where I got too many prospects that I consider top to really dive into full detail over all of them. So I made a new short list called Elite Prospects. Now it drops down to 26. Now, the elite prospects are guys who currently hold the potential of an average major leaguer, which means that they should probably make the major leagues. Whether it's for me or another team, they should still make the major leagues. Now, of course, my elite high-end talent is all in rookie leagues. Let's take a look at each player by position, of course, starting with our catchers, which currently I have no one. First baseman, we have several of them, which means they're probably not good at anything else, which is why they're at first base. We have, let's start with Yanil Cassiano. He's currently at low A, California. He is a 10th round pick in my first draft class. Looks like he's a solid player, above average power. He could be a catcher. He's probably going to end up being a catcher in the future. As Shea Langeliers ages, Yanuel Cassiano looks like he's the heir apparent so far. Of course, there's possibly other guys as well, but right now he looks like he's the heir apparent. Last year was his first taste of pro ball. He did really well in a rookie league, which earned him promotion up to low A, where he's obviously struggled. The jump from the complex league to low A is pretty big. So sometimes it does take a year and a half for these guys to finally start making some progression, especially statistical-wise. But if you look at his offensively, he should be a really good asset. Right now, everything he has is projected to be above average, except for the batted balls in play. But his contact and avoid case is both above average, so it's one of those weird things. He's not a threat on the base paths, nor is he really a good defender. You look at his catching ability. Actually, his catching ability is fine. It's definitely fine. It's good enough, especially with his above average offense, it seems like. If I were to set him as a catcher, what would he look like? Roughly the same. So not much has changed. But with his power, he can play first, but I don't see him needing to play first, and he's a good enough catcher. Then we have Jonathan Cruz. He is currently sitting at the Dominican Summer League. A 16-year-old out of Nicaragua. He was a scouting discovery. That's pretty cool. Scouting discovery. Not your prototypical first baseman, as he lacks that raw power that you want out of a first baseman. But defensively, he is a liability anywhere else. More than likely, if I have to, I will probably end up trading him. As he just doesn't seem to. He's only 16, and he'll be 16 all of this year. He just doesn't have the necessary tools that I would look for in a first baseman. Then we have Donovan Jeffrey, a 19-year-old, currently at the Arizona Complex. Now he is a beast. Drafted him last year in the second round, mainly because of this ridiculous power. That is a prototypical first baseman, and he's actually good at first base. He could develop into a solid plus defender at first base, but his power is all I care about. We want that power to get to 75, or at least 70 at the minimum. That kind of power, you're looking at probably, if you take into account his contact and his avoid K, he's not going to hit for much. Probably 200, probably a 200 hitter. 200, 210, 220, somewhere around that range. But he should be flirting with 50 home runs on an annual basis. At 19 years old, he's already got more power than some of the guys in my current lineup. So it just tells you how strong he is. Then we have Jose Napolitano, also at the Dominican Summer League, 16-year-old out of Venezuela. He was a free agent signing this year. Unlike, is it Jeffrey? Just look at. Yeah, unlike Donovan, he can actually hit as well. He can hit and he's got power. So he looks like he's the better first baseman and more than likely will win out the first base job. Not as a good defender, so could potentially be just strictly DH. He could probably play first all the way up through the minors, but as we get to the upper levels and the major league level, he might end up shifting over to DH and just kind of hanging out there and just crushing home runs and batting 300. He's good enough to probably bat around 300, hit you 40, 50 home runs, get plenty of walks. This guy is the whole package. Really excited to get him. That's the first baseman. Second baseman, you have a couple of them, both really good. First one is Alfonso Guzman. He is an 18-year-old out of the Dominican Republic. Currently plays in the Arizona Complex. Last year was his first taste of pro ball. He was a scouting sign. He was an international free agent in my first class. He's up to number 64 in the rankings as well. He debuted really well. As you can see here, batted 279. His slash line was 279, 380, 442, 822 OPS. He did fine. And his power actually showed up in game. 9 home runs for the lower leagues is pretty good. It's hard to get home runs in the complex league and rookie leagues. They're not hitting as many. Their power really starts to show up as they hit low A ball and start moving up. That's when you start seeing more numbers that resemble what players do. Because the pitching is much more difficult. They find out quickly that the pitching is just more advanced, and it's harder to hit home runs. But once they adjust to the pitching, the home runs the power starts coming in play. They launch them off better angles and stuff like that. But he looks like a legitimate second baseman. He's a defensively, he's okay. He's fine defensively. Not the best second baseman. But his offense is what's going to carry him truly to the majors. And then our next second baseman is Lupe Rosales, 18-year-old out of the Dominican Republic, a big kid, 6'4", 180 pounds. Switch hitter too. I love that he's switch. That should keep him, and that should make him extremely talented for both lefties and righties. He could someday. Again, it's the air. I don't like the air being so low, and they don't seem to really gain that much. He was also a free agent signing this year. They don't gain too much defensive attributes as they move up the rankings of the minors for some reason. It's like no matter how much they play a certain position, they'll improve up here up to a certain point, but nothing ever changes here. It's weird. At least not that I've noticed too much of it happening. Again, he's one of those guys with pure power. I love power guys. The more of these guys I can get my lineup, the better. That's why I always aim for the guys with 70-plus home run power. Eventually, I'm going to get a lineup with 9 dudes that all have above average home run power, and it's just the most dangerous lineup in all of baseball. That's my goal. Let's move on to third base. We got one third baseman. That is Miles Naylor, 20-year-old out of Canada, currently at High A Lansing. He's progressing slowly but surely. That's what he's doing. He's not really climbing up the ranks that quickly. I guess his first year he did. He went from rookie ball, so he went to Arizona to low A, and then high A, where he kind of hit a snag. Last year was full season at high A, although it appeared he got injured. So I am a little concerned. He seems to be hitting a wall. This year is one of those years where you don't like your top prospects playing at the same level for an entire year. Usually that means they A, get hurt, which is not good. B, they're not progressing. So if you get prospects that are staying at the same level that you consider your elite guys, It's not a good thing. You don't want them at the same level. You kind of want them spending half a year there, moving up to the next level, maybe spend another half a year there, and then begin the next year, or play the final month at the level that you plan for them to be at next year. So spending a full year at high A is a little concerning. Hopefully this year he can get a fairly early promotion up to double A. Let's look at our shortstops. We do got a couple of them available, including one that got Hector Garcia, a 17-year-old out of Dominican Republic. And he's a good-looking kid. I like everything about him. I think he's good offensively. He's decent on the base paths. Defensively, he's fine. Signed him in this year's class of international prospects. I almost look at him as like a Francisco Lindor light. He's not as good defensively. He's not as good on the base pass. I think he's a better offensive player than Francisco. He just kind of gives it up on this end over here. But we'll see if that actually ends up being the case. Either way, he should still develop into a fine, everyday shortstop with his offensive prowess. That's what it looks like. It's going to be just fine. And there's no rush. He's got plenty of time. And then next we have Luis Navarro, 17-year-old kid out of Venezuela. Currently playing short. Although his arm suggests eventually he's going to move to second base, where he'll probably be much better. If I moved him at second, how much would he? Yes, he'll be instantly increased. But for now, he's at shortstop because of where he is at the Arizona. So he's the best shortstop available at the Arizona complex. But at some point in his career, he's got to make the jump to second base because his arm doesn't play at third. His arm doesn't play at short. But his skill set is perfect for second base. Not a strong arm. Doesn't need a strong arm. Average arm at second base is fine because that range and error at second base is phenomenal. Again, he's a really good-looking offensive player, though. I say really good. I mean, everything should be at least in the green with some things in the blue. Unfortunately, not that dangerous on the base pass. I wish he was. I do like guys like that. Last year, he debuted in the Arizona complex, and the Dominican Summer League. He did okay. Nothing outstanding. I could have kept him down there again this year, but I chose to move out stateside. That's more of a need at the stateside level than anything else. But we'll see if he can. I think he can be okay. At least defensively, he'll be fine. It's the shortstops and left fielders. We have probably our current best potential player is David Hidalgo. He's currently at the Arizona complex, 17-year-old out of Dominican Republic. Big kid, 6'6", and a lefty. This dude is still hanging on to his 80 potential, which is pretty exciting. Last year at the Dominican Summer League, he did fine in his debut. He's currently up to number 37 overall in prospect rankings, which is, considering how far away I still think he is from even making it to low A ball, it's pretty impressive that he's number 37. I think he's still got a lot more developing to go. But it's nice to see him up here, at least stateside, where I think our coaches are slightly better, so the development should start hitting better as well. But he did fine. If he can just continue this, as long as the tools still look outstanding the way they do, even if these numbers aren't, the highest in the world, I'm fine with that. Because if you can go look at Ronald Acuna Jr.'s number, his numbers weren't out of this world in the minors. They were good, but they weren't out of this world. So hopefully he can keep retaining that. It was nice to see this stay after a full year, actually. Because I know the draft prospects, they drop like hot potatoes. That's it for the left fielder. How about some center field guys? Center fielder, we have Henry Bolte. He's a 22-year-old out of the U.S., currently at AA Midland. Now, this one's an interesting kid. Now, he's not really a center fielder. I think his permanent home will be right field or left field, where he's really good there. Now, we already saw that Seth Brown is a pretty old left fielder. We also saw J.J. Bleday is getting up there in age. Now, he looks very J.J. Bleday-like if you look at him. The contact, the avoid Ks, the power. I think he's a better defender, though. And even the ability to steal bases is slightly better. But I'm hoping we have a Jacob Wilson 2.0, where he also just quickly rises. Because he was at low A just to start 2024. He's now at double A, so 2024 low A where he struggled. Last year we saw his rise. He did so well that he got a promotion. He did well at high, good enough to earn a promotion to double A. And really, I think he was good enough to... Statistically, he was good enough for triple A. But I want to see a little bit more. What's concerning is that average. I know this average is going to get worse and worse as he moves up. Because that's just not his skill set. His skill set is hitting home runs. So hopefully he can develop high enough. I don't think he's going to be good enough to make a debut this year. But if he can make a jump like Jacob Wilson or Max Muncy, you could be looking at J.J. Bleday or Seth Brown moving on. More than likely Seth Brown since he's a little older. So we can make room for Henry on our roster. It also puts guys like Esteury Ruiz in a pickle because he's just as good as Esteury as far as potentially being a left fielder, right fielder, center fielder, but just a better offensive player. So that's gonna hurt those guys' spots in the 40-man. And then next we have Ken View, 22-year-old out of the U.S. He is currently in the Arizona complex. He was last year's 6th-round pick. Did he get any action at all? No regular season action, but he did get postseason action, and as you can see by his numbers, he was actually outstanding. Ended up hitting 3 home runs right at the gate, so it was nice to see that he could play. So hopefully he continues playing something like this, as that will give him. He'll quickly move up the ranks and be in low A fairly soon if he continues playing like that. Because like I said, our left fielder is aging, our right fielder is aging, and he looks like he's going to be the left fielder. So there's our left fielder, there's our right fielder. And so there's a good chance he could earn a promotion. That he could be the future left fielder by the time J.J. Bleday or Seth Brown gets too old. This is where he'll come in. What about our right fielders? Got a couple of them. We got Lucas Ramirez, 20-year-old out of the U.S., currently playing at the Arizona complex. He was a 9th-round pick in my first ever draft class. And he did not play in that first year, but he did play last year at Arizona complex. Nothing great. As you can see here, the whole season totals tells me that he was not ready to move up. That's why he's not. That's why you still see him. He's going to be one of the older guys down up there at the complex at 20 years old. He'll be 20 the entire year. So he's youngish, but once you start hitting your 20s, you want to start seeing some progression move up to at least low A. Long term, he looks like he should be playing right field. Possibly DH. But more than likely, he is somebody I trade in order to bring in a better player. More likely a starting pitcher. That's kind of what I go after. I'll get rid of my extra bats for starting pitchers. Because defensively, he's not very good. And then next we have Francisco Valoria, 19-year-old out of Dominican Republic. Big kid, 6'4", currently at the Arizona complex. Now, he is a true right fielder. That arm strength says right field. He did. So he went from the summer league where he did well. Last year he was okay at the Arizona. So that's why you can see him repeat it again this year. And which is fine. He'll still be a teenager all season long. And we got him with the trade from the New York Yankees. So I would like to see him progress to be really good. His power still looks to be plus power. His avoid Ks isn't terrible. So he definitely has potential as a full-time player. The problem is if it takes him a long time to develop, and those guys that I signed in international class start picking up and playing well and developing quicker, it's going to block him from ever seeing the majors because they're just too good. I'm going to have less and less guys with average potential and more guys with above average and better potential. That's the right fielder. What about our starter and pitching? Let's start with our best projected pitcher, and that's Wilmot Kimley, 17-year-old out of Germany, big kid, 6'6", currently in Dominican. He must be like a fish out of water. Dominican Summer League. But yes. Now, for me, he was out of this year's international class as well. Now, weird thing is, personally, I think he's a reliever. That's what he will be by the time he gets up to the majors. But I'll let him start because he's only got 2 pitches. For me, guys with only 2 pitches, that's just not enough for a starter. It'll work against lower level pitching where they're just not as talented. But as he progresses and he moves up, I just don't see myself playing him as a starter. I just don't think he's got what it takes. But he's going to be an excellent, because if I switch him over to a reliever, boom, look at that stuff. Stuff moves up to nearly a plus. Movement is still really good. Control is really good. This is a closer. This is a straight-up closer with really good stamina. You're not stealing bases on him. Like, he is fantastic. Like, I would love to have a guy like that coming in late in games, making sure I don't lose him. And then we have Edwin Barreda, 17-year-old out of Colombia, currently at the Dominican Summer League. He was a scouting discovery. Isn't that interesting? A scouting discovery that is projected to be a above average pitcher. He's got plus stuff, above average movement, average control. He's got a solid 3-pitch mix, really high stamina. I like seeing stamina. Stamina, that tells me these guys can go deep into games. He did play last year, struggled. He came out of the bullpen last year, though. Appeared in 21 games, 19 innings, really bad ERA. So this will be his second go-around. Again, he's really young. He's going to be 17 all season. So he was 16 all year. Last year, he'll be 17. So he's still not even considered an adult yet. And he's already on his second season of professional baseball. So that tells you. And that was a scouting discovery. So kudos to my scout. And then we have Hudson Barton, 19-year-old out of the U.S. He was a 4th-round pick back in 2024 out of high school. Still looking pretty. Last year, he was solid. Came out of the bullpen, so he's going to be back. You'll see this with a lot of my top prospects. They go from starting, whether it was in college or high school, and they're going to come out of the bullpen probably, essentially, and see if they can, just to get them into games. Eventually, you hope they can transfer back into a starting role. If not, then you kind of figure out who's going to be in your bullpen. Because the cream will always rise to the top. Your best starting pitchers will always show up, eventually. But he looks good. He looks like he should be solid. Above average stuff, above average movement, above average control, solid 3-pitch mix. All projected to be plus or better. So I have full faith that he will figure it out and continue his rise in our system. Someone who will definitely be pitching at the major league level. Then we have Patrick Forbes. He's a 21-year-old out of the U.S. He is currently at the Arizona Complex. Last year's 5th-round pick. Didn't appear for us at all. That means he also didn't play in the playoffs for the Arizona Complex. So this will be his first action. He's got average stuff, average movement, below average control. I picked him more because I liked him on his individual pitches, so I feel like there's more to him than what is shown. He's also, like I say, hitter as well. If I set him to a reliever, does he get better? Well, he's better, but not potential-wise. So potential, whether he's a reliever or a starter, is exactly the same. And then last on our list for starters is JT Quinn, 21-year-old tall kid, another 6'6" guy, currently at the Arizona Complex. He was last year's 4th-round pick. He did appear in the playoffs, and as you can see, he got rocked. Probably one of the reasons why we lost. He blew a save. We lost that game, so yeah. And he took the loss in this game, so yeah. So he definitely is the reason why we lost at least 2 of the 4 games. He's one of the reasons, not the only reason. I'm hoping his full season professional debut is better than his postseason debut for us last year. And it looks like he should be fine. He's got plus stuff, plus movement. If he doesn't end up being a starter, what we look like as a reliever? A little better, but still same as far as potential is concerned. Below average control. His control is going to always be an issue. He's always going to be that borderline. Will he start or will he be shoved into the bullpen forever? And not even forever, because Steven Emmanuel's proved that you can still be in a bullpen and eventually work your way back into a starting. But he's got 3 pitches rated at least plus or better, so that's a good thing going for him. So he's got a good pitch mix. He's got good stuff. The control is going to be the thing to watch for as he moves up the organization ladder. And let's take a look at reliever. I'll probably have tons of those guys. I'll actually have less. First guy I'm going to look at is River Hamilton, 19-year-old out of the U.S., currently at the Arizona Complex. Last year's 3rd-round pick out of high school. Now here's a kid who's used to being a starter that's going to have to come out of the bullpen and swallow his pride and work his way up the chain. Right now, of course, as a reliever, he's got nearly plus stuff, above average movement, average control. And with his pitch mix, this all tells me that eventually he'll move back into a starting role as he develops. He just needs more time to develop to become better overall. Then we have Naloava Lakuya Jr. Probably didn't say that right. 20-year-old out of the U.S., currently at Low A Stockton. He was a 5th-round pick in my first ever class. He's been strictly bullpen ever since I know I took him as a starter because he's got 60 stamina, and he started in high school. But ever since, for me, he's been strictly bullpen. Bullpen in his debut last year, which got him up to Low A ball. Hopefully he can got a little snagged up there, as you can see here, by his ERA. But hopefully this year he can keep progressing. I'm not saying he's going to be a permanent bullpen arm, but for now it seems like that's where he's found his home. But he's got the talent to be a starter. Then we have Carson Messina, 19-year-old out of the U.S., currently at the Arizona Complex. He was a 14th round pick in my very first draft class. I like seeing that. I like seeing guys at 14th round pick. You know, they're considered elite prospects. So right now I got an elite guy that drafted the 14th round. Last year was a debut out of the bullpen, so he's back into the bullpen again, which tells me that he's either A, not progressing fast enough to be a starter, or B, I just keep getting guys that are better than him, and it kind of keeps him down as a bullpen option. Because if I look at his pitch mix, it's fine. It's plus rated or better. His stuff is above average, plus, above average movement. Control. That's going to keep you down as a reliever for the rest of your life. So yeah, he's definitely destined to be a reliever. And not even a high leverage arm. Just an average arm that's always going to struggle with control. Last year was his debut season. It was respectable, but I need to see more before I move him up to the next level. And then lastly, on our reliever list, we got Danny Vasquez, 16-year-old out of Venezuela, currently at the Dominican Summer League. He was a international free agent signing, so I signed him this year. I love his stuff. The only thing that scares me is his injury proneness. because he's got plus stuff, above average movement, below average control, but still good enough to be a closer. He's got he's got a plus fastball, a nearly perfect grade slider. So everything about him, other than his control, is fantastic. The control can still change. That's not permanent. As we saw by Ryan Johnson this year. You can have an outstanding performance in control and find yourself in a better spot. Because he's a good worker and he's smart, so that bodes well for his progression and his development and the chance of improving here. If not, he's still going to come out as be as his son. He can still come in and be an absolutely dominant closer or setup guy or even a backup closer. And let's take a look at who we have labeled as closers. We do have 3 guys. Currently, we have Jose Munoz, 18-year-old out of the Dominican Republic, currently playing for the Dominican Summer League. He was a free agent signing this year. Now, he's the opposite of what I typically look for, because his stuff is average, his movement is average, but he's got nearly plus control. He's got a 4-pitch mix, not a high stamina, so he is definitely a bullpen arm. Where he can make the biggest impact is obviously his ability to not walk people or give up home runs. So he's probably going to come in as one of those fireman types where I rely on him getting that out so we don't to kind of stop what seems like could be a big inning by the opponent. Then we have Aiden Hayes, 20-year-old out of the U.S. He's currently at the Arizona Complex. A 15th round pick back in 2024. So he debuted last year. Didn't do well in his debut. Only appeared in 8 games, 12 innings in total. But I still think he's got the potential to be a solid bullpen arm. He's got nearly plus stuff, above average movement, average control. It's his pitch mix. It's not the greatest pitch mix in the world. If he got rid of the cutter and improve his fastball, he'd be a much more dangerous pitcher. That cutter is going to hold him down for probably his entire career. Too bad we can't tell him to drop a pitch. And then last but not least is Drew Rarick. He is a 19-year-old out of the U.S., currently playing for Low A Stockton. He was a 6th round pick back in 2024. Obviously came in as a starter, but looks like he's fine. Debut last year did well. Of course, he did good enough for Arizona. His struggles came in Low A. Like I said, that's a big jump. The Dominican Summer League to the Complex League, not that big of a jump. But Complex League to Low A is a massive jump in talent. And it shows. A lot of these guys go from being solid to just absolute trash. But again, he's older this year, so hopefully we'll see the better results. But he's got nearly plus stuff, plus movement, below average control, which means he's going to be flirting with the bullpen for a majority of his life. But his pitching on an individual basis are all really good, nearly all plus or better. So he's got the stuff. So ideally, if he can't pitch full time, I think, and his velocity is pretty high, could still improve being only 19. He's got the makings of a solid closer. I say for me, I mean, I know the best teams are going to have guys in the high 70s, 80s, and 80. But for me, I don't have that. These guys have to be my closers. Guys that I pick in the draft are going to have to be my closers and be my bullpen. But as you can see, though, we're going to be fine. There's plenty of high-end talent, and they're slowly but surely moving their way up. I think my favorite thing is the fact that he is still retaining his potential. Despite now being a year removed from that class, the potential is still there. So that's it for this video. It's time for me to actually start playing some games.